Back with more Haunting of Hill House. This is episode 7 and I'm very, very excited to carry on, see what's going to happen next. Last episode was phenomenal, how it was all kind of put together to look like one continuous take, and man, I'm just so blown away by this show so far. Like the performances, the writing, the production, everything is just so good, and I'm excited to see the aftermath of, a lot of big revelations and fights in the last episode between everyone as they kind of all came together properly. We've got a few interesting flashbacks as well, and that mystery about exactly what went down and how their mother died and everything is still ongoing. I don't know if we'll get any answers about that until maybe like the very end, because that seems to be the one thing they are like really holding on to. But you never know, we'll see. But either way, I'm really excited to continue and see what they have in store for us next. So let's see how it gets spooked and creeped out this time, shall we? Yeah, let's just get into the next one.
Close okay? Sorry, that's all we had on hand.
They're not blood soaked, so I think it's an improvement. Still talking to someone. I assume he's talking to Olivia, but...
How come I've never met you?
Rachel, you're not hearing me.
Because this family's a mess.
I have to shower and change my clothes. I didn't bring any of my... Okay.
Yeah, he's kind of in the doghouse. And there's the whole Theo business as well.
I needed my space, not like Cheryl.
I can fix it.
Can you fix your family? What's going to be in that photo?
Do you hear that?
Unfortunately, no.
This could ruin us.
Just you wait.
I should have met you halfway. People fuck up.
If everyone met them halfway in this family, I think things would be a lot better, for sure.
I've checked everywhere but one room. Well, that's probably your culprit. We were wondering, rats get through a pipe?
The red room.
Yeah, I'll help.
It's a tough gig for a kid. No, he's not a kid.
I think a lot of them didn't really get to have a childhood, did they? Because of everything that happened to them in the house. Man, I hate funerals. I know they're not supposed to be enjoyable. But I've been to far too many.
You don't have to talk.
He really has a guardian angel, doesn't he?
There's a woman.
She won't even sit down
What?
on the couch with him.
The hangover.
Fuck my day.
I think it's sweet that she came. Oh. Go away.
Think of her still as the same, I say. She's not dead. She's just away.
Oh man. Anyone who can read something like that at a funeral, I think, is so fucking brave.
Just say a few words.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh, the mum sat there.
And she said, you go in there and you bring my brother back. Bring my brother back. I was born 90 seconds before no. But she was always my big sister.
Oh.
But my mom, she never liked Hill House.
Your mum's fucking smart.
Miss Hill made her keep on working, even with the baby coming. Yeah, Claire didn't complain. She's a strong woman.
Uh-oh.
My little girl's stillborn.
Oh,
I'm
fuck.
so sorry. I'll be damned, but I heard it too, and I knew it. I don't know how. But sure as St. Thomas, my doubts, they just dropped away. And I knew that was my first little girl's cry. That first cry, the one she never got to if you find your missus is acting scattered, then yeah, maybe a little time away would do the trick. From the house, I mean. One day, we'll wake up and it'll be too late.
Stay the fuck out of my business. There it is. Stuck your hand.
Right in the fan.
It's a silhouette. Ah!
What? Fuck!
Dad?
Oh!
I told you to unplug the...
I didn't. I unplugged it.
Hey, I think I got this covered now.
I want to help.
It's okay. You've helped.
He's not Steve's biggest fan at the minute.
All right, you fucker.
I like that she took her glove off to do that.
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
you did her proud with the speech, buddy. Ah! Ah!
People see things, Luke. I know all about it. I write about it.
Oh, you write about it, do you? You've never mentioned that.
It's a sickness.
He's afraid of it because he saw Nell in episode 1. He's trying to pretend it doesn't affect him.
Fucking crazy person.
I'm just telling him to stop acting like it isn't going to stop it, is it?
Are we okay?
It's like if someone's nervous, you'd be like, oh, don't be nervous. It doesn't help.
Liv?
Oh. I mean, what you get up to in your bedrooms, I mean, that's quite the move.
It's a footprint to our house. To our forever house. You drew it again and again.
Oh.
I didn't.
You did.
I'll sort it out. Promise.
But you don't have to feel crazy because sometimes big boys know the difference between what's real and imaginary. Isn't that right, Dad?
I knew he was going to throw that back in his face. And the whole hat thing.
I'm glad you're here, Daddy.
That's something. They're setting me up for a spook. Ironic, because I'm breaking it right now. Oh. Don't get close to... Ah! There's someone watching him! Ah! Oh, hate it. Huh.
It looks like he bricked himself in. The tools were in there with him. And man, the scratches. I guess he had second thoughts.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he was trying to scratch his way out. You folks have a good night now.
How can they have a good night after that?
They've always talked about this place. Is it? What?
Yes.
Haunted?
Yes.
I'm sorry I didn't talk. And I'm sorry I didn't listen. And I'm sorry I wasn't there. And it's the regret of my life.
Oh.
I'm so, so sorry.
You fly safe. You too.
Can't find my credit card. The caterer's got to be paid. Did you tow my car?
Luke took it,
Reception's
didn't
over,
he?
Theodora.
Probably already has a needle in his arm. We don't know that.
Come on, guys.
I'll check outside.
It's not like someone dragged himself out of the ground, is it? Nope. Nope. I refuse.
I can fix it. I can fix it. You're not fixing this. I'm giving you every
Oh,
opportunity.
damn.
That door's been locked since we moved in, so it was nothing.
Oh. Okay, another really good episode and very emotional. Soon as we kind of saw it was going to be the funeral episode, I kind of knew I was screwed, and I certainly was. Luke's speech in particular really got me. Like, that was very well done. This show is very good at kind of guiding how you should feel about things and putting you through the emotional ringer time and time again. But it doesn't feel like, oh, you know, we obviously want you to feel this way about these certain things, because there's so many different ways you can interpret all the characters, and you may not spot every ghost in the background, and like every jump scare may not get you, and so it's kind of very subjective, like people's responses to characters, and especially like horror tropes and jump scares and stuff like that in general. But I do feel like it's very well balanced in that sense and very well judged. And you can feel any emotion you want to feel from all these different things and take different emotions from it and different, you know, scares or spooks from it. And it's still just as effective, even though you may be getting a different interpretation from everyone else watching, which I think is really clever and really well done. And yeah, we had a few kind of hints and aftermath of some revelations in the last episode. You know, I think obviously things were said in the previous episode, like what Stephen said to Hugh in the last episode. It was kind of ooh. But it was Nell's funeral day. They're not going to kind of go back to that. Maybe they just won't, I don't know. But it is interesting to see how Stephen was in the flashbacks, like younger Stephen, like so desperate to work with his dad and spend time with him, prove himself to him, be helpful, and just how done Stephen kind of is with Hugh in the present day. You know, it's kind of sad to see that contrast and how things have changed with them. But yeah, obviously they weren't going to make it all about them, and that's kind of what we saw in that scene where Hugh was saying how proud he was of Luke, and then Olivia's kind of spirit or ghost or whatever was saying, you know, he doesn't want this day to be about him, it's about Nell, don't ask him about any of this. And it was kind of interesting to have her be there alongside Hugh all this time as like a guide for him, and he seems to see her every single day. It's kind of what I assumed was happening when we'd had glimpses of him like seemingly talking to himself before. I assumed he was talking to her, so it's interesting that she's always kind of been there with him in a way. And I was kind of thinking, until like they made it clear that there was a body and everything, as we saw there was a body in like the casket in episode 2 of the mum. It would have been interesting if what happened to younger Nell when she like seemingly disappeared, but she was still right there, no one could see or hear her, but she was there. If that had happened to their mum and it just never like went back, and it was just like that all this time, and they couldn't see her, even that, so maybe she wasn't actually dead, but she was just like, she was going to be seen like Hugh all this time, so everyone had to just think she was dead. That would have been a crazy thing, but obviously that's not exactly how it went down. But it's interesting, keep dropping hints about like what's in the red room and that ending, the door being open, so I feel like answers are going to be coming fairly soon. I mean, they have to be coming fairly soon, there's 3 episodes left. But exactly what Hugh saw in that room and why he denied hurting Olivia, but also denying that Olivia killed herself and saying the house did it and everything. Just seeing him slowly be made aware that the house is very spooky and haunted. With I think his name is Horace, that the other guy like who kind of takes care of the house. Like his story about things. Then obviously finding that body in there, which was creepy as fuck. Did not like that, but tied into the, I think it was something Hill. It was like one of the original people who lived in the house, I think. So there's ties there. Maybe all this haunting thing comes from that, and the fact, like the morbid thought that he like bricked himself in the wall, and maybe he did that in like a trance. So he was kind of tricked into killing himself, maybe in a similar way that Nell was, maybe even Olivia was as well. So everything behind that, just showing that he was made more aware of things going wrong, and then he noticed that Olivia was kind of slipping away from reality a bit as well when she held the screwdriver to his throat, and then that led to her death. So the fact that the flashbacks are kind of at the point and Olivia seemingly went away with her sister for a bit, but she actually seemingly hadn't left, and then that's the night she died. Obviously, in terms of flashbacks, we're very, very close now, timeline-wise, to that night that Olivia died. So I'm very intrigued to see what went down that night and all the answers that we're going to get about that. Should be very interesting. And splicing all those flashbacks up with like Hugh's point of view for the most part of the day of the funeral, I really enjoyed, and seeing how everyone was dealing with it. The fact that Theo's girlfriend, love interests, she was there, and still a few things about Theo and Kevin's little moment in the previous episode. I think she was just drunk. She tried it on with him, he rejected her, and Shirley just walked in at the wrong moment. But maybe there's more to it than that, otherwise maybe we would have just gotten confirmation that's what went down, or maybe they're just leaving it up to us to kind of assume that. But I'm sure they'll go back round to it. But there were still a few glimpses of the aftermath of the last episode for sure. But it needed to be about Nell and her day and a goodbye to her. But they still had some creepy moments in it, of course. A few ghostly beings in the flashbacks, and then we had Luke seeing his mother like crawl out, and then at the end with Theo and Hugh, and I think that was the mum as well, again crawling out. So they kind of got haunted a bit again, and I guess it was her who smashed up the model of the house. But yeah, just getting a glimpse of how everyone was kind of dealing with the events, and Olivia's sister being there and everything. Really good stuff. And I do feel like a lot of the focus in this episode was on Hugh, so that was kind of cool that we got that, because most of the flashbacks were kind of very much from Hugh's point of view as well, and we got a lot of that in the present day stuff. And the fact that everything he wanted to say to his kids like that is really heartbreaking. That scene where he's trying to say goodbye to Stephen, and Olivia's there saying everything that she wants to say, but he just can't get the words out, and he's just like, fly safe or whatever, have a safe trip. So he wants to cling to his children, he wants this good relationship with them that he once had before it all went wrong. But he just doesn't have the capability of expressing that necessarily, and so much has been messed up, and maybe in protecting them from maybe a horrendous truth about what happened to their mum, he's kind of had to sever any chance of a good relationship with his kids, which is also very tragic. But that whole moment, and the idea of Hugh was very good at fixing things, but he didn't seem to be able to fix the house. He couldn't fix his family unit, he couldn't keep them together, he couldn't fix stuff in the present day with everyone, but he could maybe fix a model at the end. We'll see how that goes. I like how they kind of played with that idea, that he was the man who could fix everyone and like everything once upon a time, but then his family kind of fell apart, even hurt his hand. Maybe the cracks in the relationship between him and Stephen was kind of that moment where he was like, I can do this on my own now, go away. Even though Stephen had turned off the fan, but clearly it's a spooky fan, because everything's spooky. But yeah, everything with that I thought was really heartbreaking, but I'm glad Hugh got a lot of focus in that sense, because he was one of the characters we hadn't seen a lot of, and we got quite a bit of Olivia in this one as well, both ghostly version, evil scary version, and flashback version. So very intrigued to learn a bit more about that. I don't know if we're going to get like glimpses into Olivia's past, like seeing her grow up and stuff, and like has her sensitivity always been there? Did it awaken at a certain point? Is there an origin for that particularly? Is there a spooky origin? I don't know. So I'd be intrigued to find out maybe if that's going to be a thing. And yeah, the fact that Luke has potentially made off with Shirley's credit card, Theo's car, they just assume maybe he's fallen off the wagon again, which is a bloody hard day. So if he has, if any day was going to break him, I think it would be that day. He's had to bury his twin, and after giving that speech and everything. But maybe my gut's telling me that there's obviously more to it than that. Like there's probably more to everything in this show. Maybe after what he saw when they were burying Nell, then what Hugh was saying to him, like some things aren't just in our head. That's not just a figment of our imagination. Maybe he's like, well, maybe I need to solve this mystery for myself. Maybe he's gone to the house, I don't know. That would be my gut, is that he's taken that so he can get to Hill House, but maybe it's just fallen off the wagon again. We'll have to wait and see, but it's kind of the whole addiction thing as well. So we'll see what happens, but again, the family still feels very, very divided, and I don't know what the end goal is going to be for that family. I don't know if they are going to find a way to be a more cohesive unit. This is going to bring them all together in the end. Maybe if they all go and face Hill House together, maybe. But they have to get Stephen a bit more on board with that. He's not really still about that, and very much in denial about what he saw when he saw Nell's ghost. All the other spookies goings on. I think he very much wants to remove himself from that, and because so much of his life in terms of like ghosts and everything is his fiction that he's written and what he's made a livelihood out of. He probably doesn't want that bleeding into his personal life either, especially because if he accepts that is a part of him, maybe, you know, look what happened to his mum, look what happened to his sister, that kind of mental illness, as he put it. I think he's terrified that that's kind of a part of him as well, because it just runs in the family, and he doesn't want to lose everyone else. You know, like he said to Luke, I don't want to bury you. And again, I don't think he puts things in the best way. I really don't think he handles a lot of situations in the best way, but you can understand that pure fear that he kind of has. He doesn't want to lose anyone. But sometimes in doing so, I think he goes about it the wrong way, and he pushes them to that point, which isn't great, but also it's a very human thing that we do, very human mistakes to make. So yeah, messed up family, pretty hard day for all of them, but again, the performances were fantastic, and just seeing things get spookier and spookier in the flashbacks as we get closer to the fateful events of that night that seemed to change everything, and seeing everyone deal with the funeral, and how Thea kind of pushed that, you know, her girlfriend-ish away when she first arrived. I actually thought it was very sweet of her to come, but I guess if Thea wanted her there, she would have said. So it's, you know, and Stephen's potentially soon-to-be ex-wife there as well, and they didn't really seem to interact. You know, they were kind of sat apart. When she left, she didn't say goodbye to Stephen or anything. It's very telling of where their relationship's at. So this really was like all the couples were kind of divided, because obviously Shirley wasn't talking to Kevin. The only couple that really properly interacted and had a decent conversation was Hugh and Olivia, which kind of says it all, really. So yeah, that was another interesting thing. And the fact that the episode was called Eulogy, Luke kind of gave a really lovely one for Nell. And even that scene with Horace when he was talking about his wife and his daughter, I think it was, his firstborn, who was very sadly stillborn. That almost felt like a eulogy to them as well. He was talking about how strong and brave his wife is. The fact that after they lost their child, they could then go to Hill House, hear their babies crying it, but they knew it was their kids' cries that they'd never got a chance to cry. That's kind of twistedly beautiful in a way, because they could recognise that parental instinct they just knew, and their child they lost is still so embedded in who they are that they could sense them, even if they were not really there. They could sense what they would sound like, even though they never heard that noise. So they've kind of kept that memory of their child always with them, which is again a very powerful eulogy in itself. So I kind of like that some of the eulogies in the episode weren't just at that funeral. It was a really well done speech. I thought the actor did a great job at that. That can't have been an easy thing to kind of portray, because the camera was just basically on him for the entire thing. I think it cut back to Hugh maybe once or twice very quickly, but the rest of the time it was just him telling that story, and I think he did a great job. So once again, the acting is phenomenal in this show. And then yeah, creepy goings on with like all the damp and everything, the house and Olivia drawing up those plans, but it was all a bit crazy and all over the place. Yeah, things are getting weirder and weirder in the flashbacks, so I'm excited to see them kind of reach their peak as we can kind of get some answers. But again, I don't think that's going to be coming just yet with 3 episodes left to go. I feel like that might be like a final episode kind of reveal. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd like to think I'm wrong, because then I get to find out sooner, but we'll see. But yeah, overall just another really great episode. Really powerful performances, really emotional stuff, creepy stuff as always. They get the balance just right, I think, for me anyway. This is definitely my kind of horror. If I was to binge watch horror like I have been doing for this, and to actually soak it up there's a lot to really appreciate about it. So yeah, another great episode. Can't wait to see where they're going to take all these threads next in the next 3. But yeah, great stuff as always with The Haunting of Hill House, it would seem. So yeah, until my next reaction, thanks for watching.